Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today we're going to go down to the pond and I want to show you the effect I've had by digging swales. It's positive, it's very positive to me, and there's some negative to it. And I did this, and you can do this without spending any money if you've got a tractor with a box blade. So, it's going to be raining, there might be some drops on the lens or some audio problems, but the only time I can show you this is when it's raining or immediately after it stops. If you're watching this and you're new here, this pond has been quite an odyssey, as I did an expansion on it and widened the rear bank and added a windmill and an electric aeration system and a bridge. And I'm adding another bridge, but that's been put off a couple times now. I'll put some links in the pinned comment where you can see those other pond videos and the transformation we've done down here. We're about 200 feet from the pond, but the story starts up here. And I'm gonna try to get all the shots showing you what we've got going on. Then we'll go back up in the shop and I wanna talk about the pros and the cons to this and why it may or may not be a good idea for everybody else. This area where I stand was always muddy. I was trying to do firewood down here and it was just too muddy. So I thought I need to drain this area, and then I've got a pond that's not full. So the very first thing I did was dig a drainage swale about 12 feet wide. It's probably 18 inches deep. That makes it gradual enough that I can easily mow through it without getting thrown around. Now let's walk down and see the water flowing from this swale into the pond. I'm walking in the swale right now, and I've done some other projects in this area that kind of messed up the shape of it, so it kind of needs fixed a little bit. But you can see a nice steady stream of water running. And all this is water that would have just been sitting around, muddying up my yard. And instead, after a couple days, I'll have a dry yard and a full pond. If you look here, you can probably also notice the discoloration of the water. You can see that my pond is fairly full even though it's been a dry year. I've got an overflow that's about a foot up from where the water level is now, maybe 18. You know, that overflow might be 2 foot up from where the water level is now, but I've never seen it that high. So the next project I did is I've got one drain over there. I decided to put another one right here. And I dug an actual French drain. Now on this, I spent like $1,000, but I wanted to compare it as an alternative between the swale and the drainage ditch. And you'll see when I get down here that water is running through my drain pipe, but it's also running next to the drain pipe because I packed rock all around the drain. That's filling my pond and drying my property. Now this is the one that I just did a few months ago, and grass has not grown across it yet. And it's making a river and continuing to wash out. Now in the spring, this entire thing will grow grass across it. And a smarter person than me would have put grass seed down and had it already draining right after they did it. But I didn't do that because I didn't want to spend a couple $100 on grass seed, because I'm trying to be a tightwad intentionally, even though it's not my nature. Also, this bank was higher. The bank was higher right here than it was over here. And I redid all of that slope. So now you've got water running off all over the place and running into the pond. This area on its own without a ditch is now somewhat draining in here. Problem is that kind of washes out your bank over time. This is the second one I dug. It's been a couple years ago, and it's still running really well. We've been on this property for almost 4 years, and every winter, my pond is way, way lower than it is right now. Maybe as much as 3 foot, where you can walk on dry land halfway out into the pond. It almost goes dry. And we did address a little bit of a leak on the back side, but I don't think that was really leaking that much. So the difference between especially last year and this year is what I've done to divert water into the pond. And for me, that's absolutely worth the amount of work it took, which really each of those was dug in 4 hours and in 1 day or less. It was not that big of a deal to dig those drainage ditches. So why did I say that it might not be worth it? Well, if you look, you can see that also the water next to those, when it's raining hard, is kind of brown. You're washing some dirt in. Now, once they grass over heavily and they've got a good root system, you don't wash anywhere near as much dirt in. But at first, if you don't get grass grown, you are silting in your pond. Also, washing that dirt in puts extra nutrients into the pond, and having that excess nutrient load or bio load in the pond can cause an algae bloom, and I had a lot of algae this year. So there are pros and cons to doing what I've done. Now, if this is a farm pond and you've got cows that walk out in there, it doesn't make any difference if you've got some runoff coming into the pond or not. It's going to be the same dirty pond. Now, if you're really pristine with your pond and it's something that you built and you want it to be perfect and it's got like a beach for the kids and all that, like some of the other YouTube channels, you may not want that. Now, in terms of cost, there's another cost in cleaning the silt out of the bottom of your pond. But when we got the pond, the first year, my son walked all the way out to the middle when water level was fairly high in the spring, and it was like on his chest. So we had like 4 foot of water out in the middle. And that pond should probably be 8 or 10 foot deep. I don't know what it used to be. But it's been there for 40 years before I started modifying it. It'd been there for 40 years or longer than that, and it had silted in. And I wanted to dig it out, get it back down to 10 feet or however deep they can go before they get through the clay. And the quote for that was like $3,000. And I really still want to have it done, but I'm making it a little bit worse right now by getting all my runoff diverted to it. So those are just choices we make as a property owner or someone who has a pond on their property. Anyway, hopefully this video was interesting or informative for you. I appreciate you taking time to watch. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.